Baruch Hashem, studying the laws of Shabbos. We're up to the chapter. Let us get going here. This is called Cooking and Baking. We're studying the book of Rabbi Gershon Appel, and it is called The Concise Code of Jewish Law, Guide to the Observance of Shabbos, page 133. Cooking and Baking. One who cooks, and the cooking and the baking. Hamavashel v'ha'ofeh. So the objective of this melacha is to change the state of a substance by means of heat in order to make it edible or fit for some other use. So basically, you're not allowed to use heat in order to make a food edible. This applies when you use fire directly, heat derived from fire, and heat from other sources, such as gas or electricity. So if you use heat to cook on Shabbos, that's going to be a prohibition of cooking and baking. Let's look at the footnote here. Cooking in a microwave oven. The status of cooking food in a microwave is an interesting issue. Moshe Feinstein ruled unequivocally that cooking in a microwave oven had the same status as cooking with heat generated by fire and violated the prohibition of cooking biblically. Reading the tshuva written in 1971, we see that Rav Moshe based his ruling on assumption that microwaves will in the future become the standard method of cooking because they are better than ovens. This prediction has not come to fruition, as microwaves are used primarily for reheating or melting, but in no way have replaced fire. In as much as cooking in a microwave produces a substandard product. Subsequent poskim have assumed that microwave cooking is akin to cooking in the sun. It's called bishul b'chama. So it will be rabbinically prohibited. In either case, you may not cook with a microwave on Shabbos, because they say it's like cooking in the sun. Meaning you say you can't cook with an object that was heated by the sun, but cooking in the sun directly is not prohibited. But they wouldn't allow you to like heat up a piece of metal with the sun and then cook on that. Okay, so this malacha of baking and cooking includes baking, cooking, boiling, frying, roasting, things like baking bread, cooking food, heating water, or other liquids. Boiling ingredients used to make dyes, adding spices or other ingredients that cook easily to a boiling pot, and pouring hot water onto a solid, such as a piece of meat, causing the surface to be cooked. Okay, so stages of cooking and baking. A liquid or food containing a liquid is considered to be cooking when it's heated to a degree of yad soledes, the minimum temperature of which is to be between 110 degrees and 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Some estimate it at 113 degrees Fahrenheit. You can assume food has reached the yad soledet when it's too hot to touch, or it's so hot that you would refrain from eating or drinking it. Dry solid food is considered when it reaches the point of Machal ben Drusai, who was a notorious robber who ate food only when partially cooked. Some estimate it to be 1/3 cooked, others 1/2 cooked, with the time varying according to how long it takes to cook the particular food to completion. Bread is considered baked when it's formed a crust on the bottom and top. If you cook or bake to these stages, you're liable for transgressing the biblical prohibition. Looking for note 3. Running hot water from the faucet. Hot water systems generally use gas, oil, or electricity to heat water stored in a boiler to a given temperature, with the heating unit activated by a thermostat. When the hot water is drawn from the boiler, it's automatically replaced by an inflow of cold water. It's then heated by the hot water in the boiler or by the heating element. By running the hot water from the faucet, you are causing the cold water to enter the boiler and to be heated. Some authorities permit the use of hot water from the faucet if one of the following steps is taken before Shabbos. 1. The water valve is shut off so that no cold water flows into the boiler. Yeah, well, how are you going to have water then? Number 2, the thermostat is adjusted so that the water temperature is always below the degree of Yad Soledepo. Make sure that your thermostat setting can be set that low, as many cannot. 3, the heating apparatus is turned off several hours before Shabbos, allowing the water in the boiler to cool sufficiently so that the cold water flowing into the boiler will not be heated to the degree of Yad Soledepo. So basically, you have 3 things that you could do in order to use hot water on Shabbos. 1, you could shut off the water so you don't get any cold water into the boiler. Or 2, you can lower the temperature in the boiler so that it's lower than 110 degrees, and then it's not Yad Soledepo. Or number three, you can turn it off several hours before Shabbos so that the boiler is cooled, so any water that flows into there will not be heated. Okay, so those are your options. Or you can just not use the hot water on Shabbos. But if you need to use it for necessity, that's what you can do. What about opening and closing a radiator? That you're not allowed to do because it will heat the water or residual moisture in the radiator. But you can ask, if there's a severe cold, you can ask a non-Jew to do it, or do it with what's called a shinoi. Okay. Also included within this malacha are stirring food that's not fully cooked in a boiling pot on the fire to help along the cooking. Melting or heating metal until it glows in order to soften it, and heating and melting wax, butter, animal fat, pitch, or any other substance that's naturally congealed. Baking a clay pot in a furnace, drying damp wood in a hot oven, and hardening a naturally soft substance or softening a naturally hard substance by means of fire. So you can't do any of those things because it's also basically like cooking. In some cases, you're actually cooking, or in some cases, you're using the heat of the fire to soften something. Number 3, Chazal prohibited some activities which are similar to cooking or which may lead you to cook. Now, Malacha forbids cooking by means of heat derived from fire and from a fire-heated object. But Chazal prohibited cooking by means of an object that was heated by the sun. So you are not allowed to roast or cook an egg on a pan, on a cloth, or in sand, earth, or water that was heated by the sun. But you could cook by the heat of the sun itself. So you could place an egg or water in the sun in order to warm it. Okay. Well, now what do we have today? We have a water heater operated by solar energy. Wow. Hold on one second. This is relevant. Many authorities are of the opinion that using solar-powered water heaters is permissible on Shabbos. We have a water heater. We have solar panels on our yeshiva, and on our house. However, some ancillary issues make it advisable to refrain from doing so. For example, some argue that it's problematic to heat the cold water, which will enter the tank and will be heated by the hot water remaining in the tank. Although others do not consider this problematic, if the flow of the cold water is shut off, the issue will be resolved according to all. Other authorities urge caution based on the fact that the heater will run electronically on cloudy days. Certainly, even those who act in accordance with the lenient view should be careful to verify whether or not the heat source is the sun or the electricity. Hot water from a solar heater is to be considered as coming from a Kli Rishon, but it should nevertheless not be poured into a Kli Rishon since it was not heated by the fire in the usual way. So basically, what he's saying is, practically speaking, it doesn't really matter. Let's see this. The reason, so cooking with heat from the sun. The reason Chazal prohibited cooking with a sun heated object was to prevent people from cooking with objects heated by fire, since others might mistakenly assume that the object was heated by the fire and not by the sun. However, they did not prohibit cooking by the heat of the sun itself, because it's not customary to cook in this fashion, and people will not confuse the sun with fire. They therefore be permitted to put a pitcher of water in the sun in order to heat it without it being concerned of how hot it may get. Some authorities, however, question the permissibility of cooking by the heat of the sun in view of the fact that solar energy is being utilized increasingly and is becoming a customary way of heating. So this is very interesting because I have solar panels. So let's look up this up a little. Let's see. Okay. All right. So let me just. Oh, hey, how you doing? Baruch Hashem, grab a chumash, Avi. Yeah. Everything is good, but yeah, but you were doing Shabbos, but I was trying to see if there's anything different about our solar panels in our house to make it more lenient to use for the electricity on Shabbos, and the consensus is it doesn't matter at all. Okay, so basically, solar panels is not helpful in your home in terms of Shabbos. It's the same thing as everything else. What? Whatever. It is what it is.